Hi, so today we're looking at how carpenters and builders can grow their businesses, and the specific tips for carpenters and builders here. It's like you guys work really hard during the day. So when you get home at night, you don't want to be doing a whole heap of paperwork and admin. Hopefully what I show you today will cut that down for you. First thing to keep in mind is you will need a bookkeeper because you're worn out at the end of the day, and most of the carpenters and builders I know, they don't feel like sitting in front of a computer program they don't understand, and sure as heck their partner or wife doesn't either. So you definitely want to get yourself a bookkeeper, and you want to get efficient with your paperwork, and that's things like making sure you're on top of your admin, making sure that you're invoicing people on time, you're paying people on time, that sort of stuff. And there's some ways I can show you today that will streamline that. Now, the first thing is make sure that your personal and work bank account are separate. Now, that may seem like a bit of a no-brainer, but I mean, if I look in my phone here, I've got a couple of cards, and so the bottom line is I've got one card for one business, one card for the other business, one card for my personal stuff. Saves me a lot of time, a lot of hassle, because then at tax time, all my bookkeeping is so straightforward because everything's gone on the correct card. And if you haven't got that set up yet, get that set up. It's well worth doing. Also, we all need to know what our break-even formula is for every year, month, and week. How much revenue do you need to take in to know that you're going to break even? Because once you start doing these calculations, it switches you on to opportunities and it switches you off to low margin work, which you don't want to be doing. And if you're having trouble calculating that, let me know. One thing to keep in mind is knowing your break even is very different from hitting your break even. Generally, you'll go miles above your break even point, or you'll go a fair bit below it. Very rarely do I see businesses that are hitting the break even point. Cash flow, that's a fancy way of saying, is there money in your bank account on the day you need it? Because if you've got to pay your BAS, say on, a couple of days into the next month, right now you might have heaps of money in your bank account, but unless you've calculated, of that money, this much has got to go to my BAS, or if you've got, say, staff wages coming up, say next week, and right now there's heaps of money in your account, have you calculated in how much you've got to pay out in those wages? Or have you got other bills coming in? Very important to be on top of your cash flow. Now, another question I get a lot from your carpenters or from your builders or those sort of trades is, look, do I need an accountant or do I need a bookkeeper? And a lot of the time, especially our younger guys, they've been pushed down the road, say our younger carpenters, pushed down the road of starting their own company because, someone wanted to have them do contracting. And so here they are not knowing, well, what do I do? Pretty much, have a look at this part of the screen here. Your bookkeeper gets your Xero file ready, and they get all your paperwork done in that software, and they're going to cost you about $65 to $100 an hour. We charge about $70 an hour at this point in time. Very cheap, because if you don't get a bookkeeper, you're going to be paying, have a look down here, your accountant's going to charge you $300 an hour to do basically the same thing. Now, there are things that your accountant can do at end of financial year that can minimize your tax and make sure you're not overspending anything on tax, but they can't do that work unless the bookkeeping's been done. So you either get a good bookkeeper who does your work, saves you money at tax time, or you don't, you try to do it yourself, and then your accountant has to put in lots more hours and they charge you heaps more, and that's sort of defeating the purpose. But that's why as soon as you've got any scale, you definitely want to have a bookkeeper, because bookkeepers and accountants go hand in hand. Okay, if you get financially stuck, one, you can chase overdues, and you will get stuck sometimes. That's just life. Chase your overdues. Have you even invoiced everyone? That's another thing. So many times I see, especially carpenters, they haven't invoiced everyone they've worked for. So don't leave invoicing till next week. Do it today. If you've done the work today, get the invoice out to them today. So chasing your overdues is a good way to get back on track. Another thing is, if you're really stuck, you can talk to the ATO. They're generally friendly the first time you talk to them. They're not as friendly the second time. Okay, so get the issues sorted once you start talking to the ATO, or have your accountant do that for you. And then talk to your suppliers. Look, if you're just cash strapped, and you can say to suppliers you've been buying from for a long period of time, I'm cash strapped between today and the 31st of next month. Can you help me out? Is there some way I can operate on credit with you until that time? Generally, if you've got a decent relationship with them, they'll be happy to help because they don't want to see you go under. Otherwise, who's going to buy from them? Another thing is, let's not treat our business like an ATM, especially if you've got a business that has very lumpy income, like say building or carpentry or those sort of trades. Don't let your partner do it either, So the ATM is what you go to get cash out and spend on groceries. Your business account is what you go to get business expenses paid. You can't just go whenever you like and subtract money from it. It's not how life works. Do you need your bookkeeping done for you? If you haven't yet got a bookkeeper, that's Joel there, and that's me. We're good mates, and we love making life easier for people. We're actually at the moment doing a free 20-minute consultation to help you work out what you need. Because a lot of people who come to us, we don't actually work for everyone who comes to us, because we actually look at, well, what do you actually need? And if what you need is not us, we'll point you in the right direction. But most people who come to us, they end up being like, oh, okay, that's so much easier. And we take the burden out of it for people. Because you really want to be invoicing people immediately. Now, it goes against the grain. I know that, especially for a lot of our carpenters who are like, oh, I don't want to go home and do the paperwork. That's fine. Don't do the paperwork. Pay someone else to do it for you. Like, get a bookkeeper or someone to do paperwork for you. So if you do the work today, you should be invoicing today. Because what that does is it tells people you're serious about getting paid. If you're not serious about getting paid, they'll stall you off, and then before you know it, you're spending more time chasing them than you would have had just by invoicing them properly on time, and saved yourself some hassle. And there's always software like, say, ServiceMate or Xero plugins that just make life easier with that. But yeah, if you're not invoicing people on the same day you do the work for them, you're asking for some trouble. Overdues, you know how it goes. The longer you left it before you invoice them, the harder it is to pull money out of people. So sometimes, though, I'll work with people who haven't invoiced for someone for 2 or 3 months. Now, that's playing life on hard mode. But, you know, you give them the invoice. You ideally want, you know, for normal invoicing, say a 7-day due date. And then the 10th day, that's when, if they still haven't been paid, that's when you text them and email them. And then if you haven't got money in your account on the 14th day, that's when a phone call's due. Now, if you're a carpenter or a builder and you just wanted to spend your time on site on the tools, because you can make so much more money by being on the tools than being on the phone, pay your bookkeeper to deal with your overdues for you. Bookkeepers are happy to do that. They don't have the same emotional hang-ups about, you know, getting on the phone to people and asking for money, because honestly, we're pretty detached. Like, sure, we'll just do it nicely. Overdues, long story short, don't get yourself in that spot. But if you do, well, deal with it. Also, I love making these videos for you. If you haven't yet liked this video and subscribed, please do that, because what it does is it helps us so much, and it helps us also know which videos you like so we can make more of them for you. Your payroll is pretty important. Now, what happens is most of us start as a one-man band, and then over time, before you know it, you've got 2 staff, 3 staff, 7 staff. You're like, whoa, what was easy to do just, you know, using good old-fashioned calculator, suddenly it's hard as hell to do. And that's where your software comes in and does the hard work for you. That's where, say, Xero is very, very helpful. For example, Xero is going to calculate for you how much everyone's due to be paid, how much tax they need to be paying that they don't get to see in their paycheck, and also how much super they get paid. And what you end up with, basically, most of the people I work for, once a fortnight, I'll send them an ABA file, which is a fancy way of saying it's a file that they plug into their internet banking. It takes them about 2 minutes on their internet banking to pay everyone, whether they've got 2 staff or 22 staff. It doesn't matter. So that file saves you a lot of time. The other thing is, superannuation is one of those things that if you don't get it right, the consequences on you are disproportionately bad. Okay, it's like, imagine if you went driving down the street, you went 2 kilometers over the speed limit, and the policeman puts you in jail for 10 years. Okay, that's what superannuation is like if you stuff it up. So the magic of Xero is that it'll do that for you. Now, with Xero, people say to me, why do you just keep pushing Xero? Why is Xero, Xero, Xero? Pretty much, have you looked at the alternatives? Okay, the alternatives to Xero, they're just, in my opinion, they are not supercharged for saving you time. Some options may be a little bit cheaper, but then if you're paying your accountant more at the end of the financial year to do your books for you because you chose cheap, rubbishy software, well, how does that help you? The other thing with Xero is that whoever's accessing it is all seeing the same thing. I was chatting on the weekend with some farmers who, they're miles out of town and they've got terrible internet, so they have to upload a version of their accounting software to the accountant, and then they have to get that version back. It's a mess. With Xero, everything's online, everything's always up to date. And especially don't use an Excel file and don't use a shoebox. Okay, any of these sort of cheap workarounds are actually costing you more money than they're going to save you. And especially don't do it-yourself bookkeeping, because no one's wife or partner wants to do their bookkeeping for them, even if they were okay for the first 10 times that you ask them. Eventually they get sick of it. If you're really stuck, get in touch with us. Or even if you're not really stuck, but you just want to see if there's some more streamlined ways that you can do your bookkeeping and save yourself some money with the accountant, get in touch. At the moment, we're doing a free 20-minute work out what you need session. And whether you end up working with us or someone else, doesn't matter. Just don't do your own bookkeeping, and don't give your bookkeeping to someone who doesn't know what they're doing. If there's anything I can do to be helpful, get in touch. You can see our details there. That's Joel and I in the photo there. We'd love to help.